Welcome to episode 33 of Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast. Mirror, Mirror.
In this week's episode, an accident causes Kirk, Scotty, McCoy and Uhura to arrive in the Mirror universe aboard the ISS Enterprise, where assassination, treachery and corruption is rife amongst the crew. Meanwhile, Spock and the crew of the regular Enterprise are faced with the landing party's mirror counterparts. With the connection between the universes closing rapidly, can Scotty figure out how to return everyone to their own reality? Or will they be trapped and need to get used to a very different way of life?
The game has rules. You're ignoring them. I protest, and you come back. You didn't come back.
Good morning, Ian.
Now, Gerry, there are rules to this sort of podcasting.
I always come back.
You can't just time travel. There's probably a few folk wondering if we were going to come back between the seasons there.
Yeah, a little lie, a little break. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, I believe they say.
Aye, you were the one that was showing up in the last episode of the previous season. Yeah, we'll not have a break. We'll definitely be back 6 months later.
Changed our minds.
We retain the privilege.
How are things?
Not too bad, Gerry. I'm glad I'm not the one who has to say mirror, mirror at the start of the universe. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Candyman, Candyman.
Obviously title taken from Snow White.
I presume so.
Classic of the genre, you might say.
Well, I believe this episode is regarded as such.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of folk who've never seen any Star Trek who would know what Spock with a goatee represented.
This is probably where the trope of the twin bad guy wearing a beard or a tash, where this comes from.
Absolutely.
I first saw it in Knight Rider. There's a bad Michael, and he's got a moustache, I think, or a beard. I don't know, one or the other.
Facial hair of some sort, yeah.
Yeah, that's how you describe it. I suppose it's a cheap and easy way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I thought they could have added to this episode that would have made it better is a little bit more time with the Mirror, Kirk, and so on the regular Enterprise. Yeah.
This could have been a two-parter.
Very easily.
Mm.
But they didn't really think about two-parters, I don't think. They were too busy trying to rush out the number of episodes they needed for the season.
And I'm sure Shatner would have revelled in playing the bad guy.
It would have been interesting to see how he distinguished it from his performance in The Enemy Within.
Probably just as rapey, although we do have a potential sex offender in this week's episode also.
Yeah, unapologetic.
We'll get to that.
We will, of course. Shall we get into this one?
Let's crack on. Thunder crashes, lightning strikes as Kirk, McCoy, Scotty and Uhura stand beside three Roman-looking types in a gardening setting.
It was a dark and stormy night.
They're on this planet, I think, well, we don't know just now, but we find out it is Halcyon.
Yes, the people are the Halcyons, and I think the leader has a name that's never mentioned in the episode as well.
Has it been described elsewhere in the universe, in the novelizations or what have you?
Yeah, it's referred to again, but it's not...
You don't know? As the leading expert on
this podcast, yeah. Yeah, I don't think it ever shows up again on film, so I don't really care.
We drop in midway through a discussion where the senior figure of the Halcyon Council regretfully denies the Federation permission to mine for dilithium crystals.
He reminded me a little bit of, if you think back to the Klingons, that episode, the people of that planet. Yes,
very stoic, they've got an ethical moral position and they are not for being persuaded to change it.
And an equivalent lack of charisma.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd agree with that. Certainly in the previous episode that you mentioned with the Klingons, I thought that they had a certain charm to them.
Okay, but not these guys?
Not so much.
Yeah.
Kirk tries to argue his case, but the Elder is not for budging. And so, accepting the answer, Kirk communicates with Spock for an update on a worsening magnetic storm.
Yes, it appears the Enterprise must be in a fairly low orbit because the ship's being affected by this storm as well.
Yeah, they are being thrown around. It's a Standard violent ion type storm, I think it's described as.
Something along those lines. Kirk orders that they beam the landing party up and, at the same time, move the ship up to a higher orbit.
Back down on Halcyon, as they prepare to leave, Kirk asks the Elder when they can resume negotiations. I think it's been made perfectly clear that there's no more negotiations. That's it. We're saying no.
Yeah, he says he's going to go back to the council, but don't get your hopes up.
And he says, Kirk that is, that they do realise that they have the power to force them to give up the crystals.
It's not Kirk that says that, it's the Halcyon guy says that.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, I think it's quite enigmatically delivered. It's, why are you telling me this?
It's like, why are you negotiating with me when you can just take this? And Kirk says, well, we wouldn't do that. You should bear that in mind. I think it's really setting up the rest of the episode.
Of course it is, yes. But it doesn't really make sense on its own here.
Well, Kirk thinks that's persuasive. Like, we are a peaceful people. You can safely give us your dilithium because we won't even kill you for it. Yeah.
So Kirk, I'd imagine, sees this as a test to prove that they are...
Yeah, it's one of these things that the Federation's not generally very good at when it comes across another species that won't negotiate on their terms.
Normally they get in there and try to kill them or change their
rules or offer them something in exchange. But if they're not interested in anything you've got, what do? You
kill them.
Well, quite often. Or change their society to a better one that's the same as ours.
In any case, they beam up in the middle of a storm.
Or they try to.
In the transporter room, Spock is waiting for them to materialise, but is disturbed to find that they only partially appear before disappearing again.
They do. And then we see the background change slightly. New logos appear on the transporter pad.
Yeah, I think there's a brief sequence of cutting between two shots of the Enterprise facing in different directions.
We do. The exterior shots, they're remastered shots as well.
Are they?
They look good. I think it was in the original version as well, but this is the remastered, visual.
And we head back to the transporter room. The party eventually beams up, but there's something different.
Yes, they receive some sort of Nazi-esque greetings from Spock and Kyle.
Yeah, and Uhura is showing a lot more skin than usual.
She's in decent nick, isn't she?
Indecent? Or indecent?
I think what I'm trying to say is she's in good shape.
Oh yeah, she's been looking after herself. I wonder if she knew this was... She read the script and she was doing a few more sit-ups in the morning.
All abs, yeah.
And Kirk himself, he's not wearing his usual get-up.
None of them are.
Yeah, but they're the most noticeable. Uhura and... Kirk's lost his sleeves.
Yes, and there's sashes involved somewhere as well, isn't there?
Yeah. However, they stop in their tracks as they see themselves that things are not what they expected. And there's one main signifier that we've already mentioned.
Yeah, well, there's the Nazi salute greeting, and also Spock has a little tiny pixie beard thing.
He does. The salute's very sinister.
Yes, absolutely. And I think Kirk has to improvise here, not knowing fully what's going on. He kind of plays along a little bit with the people who are in more stable positions.
Yeah, because, Spock makes no mention of any change.
No, well, if you think about it from his point of view, they've beamed up in the clothes he was expecting them to be in. They look like the people. There's no reason at this stage for him to think anything's gone wrong other than Kyle reporting an issue with the transporter. Yeah.
The anxious Kirk confirms that there is no progress in their mission status with the Halcyons, as he notes that this Spock, is wearing a blade.
Indeed. And he perhaps immediately regrets his report as Spock orders Sulu to turn the ship's phasers on the Halcyons.
Yeah, before torturing Kyle with his agonizer.
His personal agonizer.
For his apparent underperforming during the ion storm.
Indeed.
We go to the credits with some ominous music. I like the score throughout this episode. There was that sort of foreboding...
Yes, there was some reused music that's kind of tweaked a little bit and things like that. It was quite nicely done.
Yeah. Captain's log, what was the start date?
Unknown.
Is that the first time?
No. We did it again in The City on the Edge of Forever, I believe.
Okay. We're told that after beaming up during the ion storm, they found the behaviour and discipline of the Enterprise crew to have become brutal and savage.
Where's he recording this Captain's log?
Is this
after he gets back?
I think it must be after the fact, yeah.
Okay.
As well as there being subtle physical differences.
Yes. We return to the transporter room where Mirror Spock tells Scotty and McCoy that they have work to do.
Yeah, there's been some damage to engineering and there are injuries that McCoy has to attend to. He then turns his attention to the partially recovered Kyle, who insists that the transporter power beam jumped for a moment before he made his own error and that he's never seen anything like this before.
Yes, Kirk confirms that he doesn't feel quite himself and makes his excuses to head to sickbay.
Yeah. In the corridor, as he leaves, the four of them are in a hurry, confused about what has been happening, but Kirk tells them to keep quiet for the moment as they pass another crew member giving them this unsavoury salute.
Indeed, they're heading for sickbay to get the old once-over from McCoy.
Yeah, they arrive and try to work out where they are.
What is this? Everything's all messed up, changed around, out of place.
Captain, what's happened?
Oh, not everything. That spot. I spilled acid there a year ago. Jim, what in blazes is...
I don't know. It's our Enterprise. But it isn't. Maybe
what, Captain?
any of you feel dizzy when we were in the transporter beam?
Yes.
When we first materialized?
I did.
It happened twice. First, we were in our own transporter chamber, and then we faded. And then, when we finally materialized, we were here, wherever this is.
Captain, the transporter chief mentioned a surge of power. The transporter lock might have been affected by the ion storm, and we just materialized somewhere else.
Yes, here. Not our universe. Not our ship. Something parallel. Parallel universe, coexisting with ours on another dimensional plane. Everything's duplicated. Almost. Another Enterprise? Spock with a beard?
Another Captain Kirk, another Dr. McCoy, and
An exchange. If we're here...
Then our counterparts must have been transporting up at the exact same time. Similar storms on both universes disrupted the circuits. We're here, and they're on our Enterprise.
I'm sorry, I'm not having that. They got to that solution so quick. It's a by jings, I've got it. It's a parallel universe.
Eureka! To be fair to Kirk, it's only 4 episodes since he learned about parallel universes from Spock and the guy with the funny beard.
Yes, and the alternative factor.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, I'm sorry. This is a massive leapery. You can't just... So people are behaving differently and Spock's got a beard. Oh, it must be a parallel... No, that... Why could it not be that they've been changed in some way? That they,
Yes.
while they're away, there's been something's taken over their body or their attitude. I mean, it must be... The obvious solution isn't... The first solution is not that it's a parallel universe.
Nobody ever talks about perpendicular universes.
No.
They should do that more.
Yeah. Feel free.
Anyhow, McCoy at this point notes that they should try to save the Halkins in this universe. It wouldn't be my first priority.
Nope. Not at all. Halkins can look after themselves.
We're leaving this universe as soon as we can get out of here, aren't we?
Yeah. And this is one of the issues I have. I mean, generally, I thought this was a great episode, but I don't know. It's if you look at this, if you think about the science behind it, and I'm not an expert. Well, yeah, some say. But the sort of theory of there being infinite parallel universes, I wouldn't really care about what happened in one. You know, some will be good, some will be bad, some will die, some won't. I'm not sure if I would be that bothered about the outcome in the one that I was in if I was leaving it.
Well, exactly.
Just let them go on with it.
The most ridiculous theory about parallel universes is the one that for every decision, there's a separate universe where the opposite decision was taken.
Yeah.
That's ludicrous.
The numbers, if you imagine the exponential...
Yeah. They'd fill up the space for universes very, very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, they're wrong with that.
Yeah,
I thought about it. It doesn't make sense.
There's a different, infinite number of versions of this podcast where I've said one word different or breathed at a different moment.
Yeah. It's just silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sort it out.
This is the best version, obviously.
If this is the best version.
This is prime.
You mean there are other
There's
versions, but
worse
it's not quite as good?
versions.
Oh, that's pretty bad.
There's a version where we've got 1 million listeners every week.
Yeah. That'd be disappointing, wouldn't it?
Imagine only getting 1 million.
Anyway, where were we? Yeah, so Kirk asks Scotty to buy some time by blowing out the phaser circuits and then to work on the computer technology to find a solution. I'm not sure
Get us home, Scotty.
Yeah, he's an engineer, isn't he? He's not I'm not sure if he's a computer
Temporal
scientist.
physicist, yeah. So Scotty leaves at this point after being told to set his communicators to a scrambled sub-frequency.
Yes, Kirk then tells Uhura to run that day's communication from Starfleet Command to find out the exact orders his counterpart made and what the options are that he has.
Yeah, we get this, at this point, the scared, timid woman trope that we've seen quite a few times and criticised on every occasion.
Yeah, she goes to leave and stops. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, she says, and then he says, you're the only one who can do it, Uhura.
He has to reassure her in a manly way.
Yes, give her some manly courage.
Before he sits down to look at the computer library with McCoy. Up in the bridge. Have you been calling this the bad bridge and the good bridge?
No, because you're never on the other bridge.
Yeah.
Till the end of the episode. We haven't seen it yet.
That's true.
And we don't.
No.
Okay.
Up in the bridge.
Sulu has Chekhov target Halkin with the planetary setting on the phasers.
Yeah. When an apprehensive Uhura enters and sits at her console. She's quickly joined by the scarred, creepy Sulu.
Creepy is the word that I've written. He says he creeps on her.
Yep. And hints at sexual violence only to be stopped by the arrival of Kirk and the need for them all to salute. He's quite believably nasty in this episode.
It's nicely played.
It is, yeah.
Uhura confirms to the captain that communications are up and tells him that he is ordered to destroy the Halkins if they do not comply.
And there is no alternative.
0. Sulu is looking for the order to fire, but is told to stand by.
Down in engineering, Scotty explains to a random that he has to check phasers for possible damage. Now, why does he have to explain himself? In the original Enterprise, he's the engineering chief. He can go in. He doesn't have to explain himself.
Clearly here, they're not as trusting. He needs his ID to get in, and he doesn't have it.
He is forced, therefore, to communicate with Kirk and report no damage.
Yes, he's not able to conduct the sabotage.
Up in the bridge, they are now out of range of their initial phaser lock, and they're surprised that Kirk wants to talk again with the Halkins rather than adjust and attack.
Spock says they're obliged to provide the customary example.
Yes, they've shown to be uncooperative. But I think Kirk, he at this point tries to offer that they're a new race and they might have other resources than dilithium crystals that they can utilise.
Yeah, Spock doesn't care. He
No.
says this is a serious breach of orders.
Yeah, he just wants to use his big gun.
As usual. Kirk tries to play up to the character he thinks they expect, telling Spock he doesn't have to explain himself. He then threatens the Halkins over communications and gives them 12 hours to change their position.
Yes, and abruptly ends communications.
It's interesting to note that the Halkins are basically the same in both universes.
Well, that's another issue I had. If you're saying this is a parallel, everything's reversed, why would the Halkins be the same?
Oh, because not everything is exactly opposite. It's more shades of grey.
But they're not a shade at all. They're exactly the same colour.
Yeah, well, some people will be the same, some people will be different. I think the theory is everyone's the same, it's just they're in different circumstances. So Spock, we see, is the same, but he's just had different surrounding context to deal with. He's still able to be reasoned with in the same way as their own Spock would be.
I'm not sure I buy that. Sulu doesn't come across like that you could have a chat with him.
He's just been brought up differently. He's had different environmental factors affecting his character development. They come back to the mirror universe, not in this series but in Deep Space Nine, and the characters there ask the same questions. It's like, if this is the mirror universe, why are you still the same?
Okay. Kirk then gets up acting quite suspiciously and goes to his quarters and tells Uhura to have Scotty and McCoy meet him there.
Yes, while he's talking to Uhura, Chekhov shiftily makes his way to the turbo lift. Well, he hits some buttons on his console first, I think.
And Spock tells Kirk that he has placed himself in a most grave position and his behaviour needs to be reported.
Kirk tells him he's at liberty to do so and heads to the lift himself.
Yeah, where a sinister looking Chekhov is waiting for him. And when the doors open, the captain is immediately assaulted and held by security.
Chekhov takes this opportunity to explain his evil plan and offer some unnecessary exposition.
Yeah, what is the thinking behind it?
He'll kill the captain and everyone will move up in rank.
I mean, it's a plan, I suppose. It's not very sustainable long term.
No, you'll end up just by yourself.
Yeah, last man standing.
Yeah.
I think he says as well that no one would question his death due to his recent disregard for prime orders from the Empire.
Yeah.
Now they say this is interesting. They use the term the Empire, not the Federation.
Yes, the Terran Empire.
Right. I mean, empires are evil, aren't they?
In theory, Roman Empire, was that evil?
Sort of.
British Empire, was that evil?
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Point proved.
Darth Vader's Empire.
Yeah.
The Austro-Hungarian Empire. I'm not sure how evil that probably.
Yeah.
So that'll sound a bit. Yeah, I mean, empires by nature are evil. They're all conquering, aren't they? They
Empire of Japan.
They rape and pillage. They take and they use. Yeah.
What else has an emperor?
That guy with clothes.
His new clothes.
Anyway.
We get a captain's log again, supplemental on this occasion.
Yeah, what does he note?
He commands an enterprise where officers apparently employ private henchmen among the crew and where assassination is used to advance your own rank.
Yes. However, this private militia saves the day as one of them is on Kirk's side and he helps to knock out Chekhov and kill two of the others before another of his security team arrive on the scene to congratulate him on switching sides to the top dog. So there's been someone who's decided, I'm just going to be on the winning team here.
Yeah, he's seen what side his bread is buttered, but he overplays his hand.
How?
He tells, under prompting from Kirk, he says he might like to be captain one day, and Kirk slaps him down. Not on my ship, he says. Yes,
and then he agrees, he doesn't know what it is, but he agrees with one of the other goons that this chap should be taken to the booth.
Chekhov to be taken to the booth.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out about that later.
We will. Quite like the booth.
Yeah. Effective. Down in Kirk's quarters, he explains to McCoy and Scotty what happened with Chekhov, and Scotty notes that Sulu is now the head of his own little Gestapo.
Scotty is asked about the readings and technology and claims that everything as it should be, except them.
McCoy explains that his sickbay is a chamber of horrors and his assistants were doing research on pain thresholds by beating a man.
Well, I mean, how are you going to research pain if you don't cause of it?
Exactly. How do you know where the human organs are if you don't cut up an open man or cut up a living man?
Kirk asks the computer to confirm his theory about the parallel universe, which it does, and also he asks if the conditions caused by the ion storm could be recreated artificially.
It says, yes, of course, I will put it on a floppy disk for you.
Yeah, so they now have a plan to reverse the situation.
Very convenient, isn't it?
Yeah.
Computer, how do we solve this problem? There you go.
But Scotty can't do it alone, and so McCoy is roped in under protest.
Yes, he says he's a doctor, not an engineer.
Yeah, he keeps using that one. You should know by now.
You are whatever. Your contract's got a thing saying such other duties as required.
Yeah.
At McCoy's request, Kirk uses the computer to find out more about who they are in this universe.
Ready.
Read out official record of current command.
Captain James T. Kirk succeeded to command ISS Enterprise through assassination of Captain Christopher Pike. First action, suppression of Gorlan Uprising through destruction of rebel home planet. Second action, execution of 5,000 colonists on Vega 9.
Cancel. Now we know.
Captain, we can do it.
Good.
We have to lay in the automatic transporter setting. But when we interrupt engine circuits to tie the power increase into the transporter, it'll show up on Sulu's security board. Of course, we'll only need a second.
I'll tell Uhura to create a diversion, distract Sulu's attention. At your signal, we better get back to our posts. Keep me advised.
Jim, if we're here, what do you suppose our counterparts are doing back in our universe?
On our Enterprise.
Kirk, obviously envisioning some kind of disaster back on their Enterprise, has underestimated Spock, because we immediately see the mirror Kirk, McCoy, Scotty and Uhura just getting chucked in a jail cell.
Yeah, they're being manhandled as Kirk shouts out about them being traitors and threatening to hang Spock up by his Vulcan ears.
Yeah, he asks, where is your beard? I mean, even in his own universe, Spock could shave.
Yeah.
So it's a stupid question.
Yeah, especially unless, of course, he's always had his beard. You know, if someone walks in with not a beard the next day, you go, "Oh, where's your new haircut?"
Yeah. He asks where his personal guard is, but they're obviously not going to be telling him that if they're kidnapping him.
That'd be a schoolboy error, that, yeah.
Spock explains he has no authority here and he will be held until Spock figures out a way to send him back where he came from. But he decides it's an opportunity here to bribe his first officer.
How?
He offers him credits.
So, I think we have discussed, I've asked the question before, I mean, are the people paid with cash, so it's credits?
In the mirror universe they are.
Yeah, but okay.
We still don't know really. By the time of Next Generation, nobody gets paid. They just work to better themselves. Spock is then offered his own command. Kirk thinks he can swing that, or some other price. Is it power? Yeah. Spock is fascinated by this behaviour.
And simply walks off. Back on the bad Enterprise.
Well, you say bad, it's all relative.
Badder.
The ISS Enterprise.
In the corridor, Spock joins Kirk and congratulates him on defeating Chekhov. He doesn't want the more high-profile and dangerous role of leader himself. He prefers his scientific duties.
Yes, and being a secondary target.
Yes.
They walk past Chekhov in the agony booth, which I think is a bit of a surprise to Kirk.
Yeah, because he gave the okay for this.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that when you see the booth, right,
They have a little chat about whether Chekhov should be executed or given the full programme on the agonizer.
Yeah.
And Kirk at this point is a little bit non-committal. I think that possibly raises Spock's suspicion.
Yeah.
Spock asks at this point whether Kirk intends to maintain his orders regarding the Halkans, and Kirk doubles down on his position.
Okay, is this the point where Spock notes that his approach to the Halkans is unusual and that consequences can't be ignored?
Yes, he says he won't allow Kirk's aberrations to jeopardise his position.
Yeah, so Kirk turns the tables and asks him if he thinks that the Halkans should be destroyed.
I like this exchange, because Spock says, terror must be maintained or the Empire is doomed. It is the logic of history.
Yeah.
But Kirk responds that conquest is easy and control is not, and they may have bitten off more than they can chew. I liked it. It was a good little back and forth. They then remind one another that they are formidable enemies and they shouldn't underestimate each other.
And then with Spock gone, Kirk orders Chekhov to be released from the torture chamber, but to be confined to quarters.
Down at engineering, still on the ISS Enterprise, Scotty distracts the guard at the door and McCoy puts him to sleep with a hypospray.
Does he?
Apparently it's going to hold him for 6 hours.
And then they start to turn off or mess about with the system.
They're sneaking around though by bending forward slightly, despite still being very visible to the people below.
As long as you drop your height by about 3 inches, then
they'll never see you.
Never. Kirk returns to his quarters to find that he doesn't always sleep alone.
No, I mean, for a change, it's not Rand who's in his quarters randomly when he gets back.
No, it's an attractive brunette. She's lying on his bed, reminiscing about a recent encounter and handing him a drink.
Yes, she is of the opinion that he got lucky with Chekhov and it's not like him to be caught off guard.
No, and suggests that he is still in trouble with Starfleet Command and tries to find out what his end game is.
Yeah, she thinks he must have some grand scheme and that he wouldn't be behaving this way ordinarily.
Yeah, I think she predicts that it's going to be a move up to the Admiralty. And he plays along, claiming even greater things if he's successful. So he's like, yeah, no, more than that.
A super admiral.
This appears to impress her as she puts her arms around him and asks if she is to be Caesar's woman.
Before he can respond, Spock comes on communications.
Yeah, now I thought when I watched this for the only time, I thought for sure that she was a spy.
It wouldn't be out of keeping, but I don't think she is.
Just that she was asking a lot.
Yeah, but she also seems to know a lot. She obviously is trusted.
Yeah. Or she can see through a little computer that we find out more about.
Yeah. Spock, like I say, comes on communications to tell Kirk that he has orders to kill him.
Yeah, I suppose that's pretty severe.
Yeah, but it's also quite bold for Spock to reveal.
Yeah, because if you know that someone is out to get you, you can either defend or attack.
I think this is Spock trying to preserve his current position. He wants Kirk to destroy the Halkans, put things back the way they're meant to be.
Captain's log, stardate again unknown. They have 4 hours to escape or face death.
Well, he'll face death. The others are fine.
Yeah.
Marlena is surprised. So we return to Kirk's quarters for Marlena the brunette.
Yeah, we haven't found out at this point that's what she's called.
It is what she's called.
It is, yeah.
She's surprised to hear that Kirk doesn't intend to kill Spock.
Yeah, but I think she toasts Spock for having the decency to warn him.
Yeah, she thinks that means that Kirk will just kill Spock, having been told what's going on, but that is not the position. She offers to operate something called the Tantalus field. Yeah,
so that he can monitor Spock. Kirk clearly doesn't know what this is, but again agrees. He should have learned his lesson. Do you want to put the chamber? You want to use a chamber? Yeah, sure. It's a torture device. We'll use the Tantalus field. Yeah, why not?
She says she doesn't like this device, but he won't agree until he finds out what it is. I think he's hedging his bets.
In any case, she goes to turn on the machine, and while she claims to hate the device, they consider how Kirk has benefited from it and how Spock could be killed by the touch of a button.
It's not that bad.
Of course not. It made you captain. How many enemies have you simply wiped out of existence by the touch of a button? 50? 100? Now, I always thought that was funny. The great, powerful Captain Kirk, who owes everything to some unknown alien scientist and a plundered laboratory.
Well, if you don't take advantage of your opportunities.
You don't rise to the command of a starship. Or even higher. That magnificent mind of his. But it can't protect him from this. I press it. And he dies. Now, you really mean it? It doesn't matter. If Spock fails his order, he'll be killed anyway.
I'll see to it that the circumstances of his failure will clear him.
You're not even afraid of Starfleet Command. Can your scheme bring you that much power so quickly? And what about me? How does Marlena fit in?
How does Marlena want to fit in?
So, Kirk is effectively like Biff Tannen from Back to the Future 2.
You think?
Yeah, he's gained his power because of the wizardry of some unknown scientist, some physicist or something or other.
Okay.
Yeah. And Back to the Future 2, yeah, because of the almanac.
Yes.
Yes, it was
it's
a
not
time
quite
machine.
the same, is it?
Well, it was based on, it wasn't his own. She's clearly
It's inherited power, essentially.
Yeah.
Yes, or gifted power.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Marlena leaves the room and Kirk communicates with Scotty, reminding him that they have to leave within 3 hours.
Scotty says that doesn't matter because if we don't leave in the next half hour, we're screwed anyway.
Yeah.
And if they miss this opportunity, they can't leave for another 100 years.
Yeah, so they're dead.
Yes. Well, they're stuck anyway.
He says they are now ready to bridge power from the engine to the transporter, but Kirk needs to get there to free the board in 10 minutes' time.
Yes, and then meet the rest in sickbay.
Mm-hmm. We head over to Spock's quarters, evil Spock's quarters.
Evil Dr. Porkchop. He asks the computer what Scotty is up to.
And it tells him that Scotty and Kirk are conducting classified security research.
It does. An alert light flashes on his console and he asks Sulu why he's monitoring him.
Yeah, he explains that his security board has detected extensive use of the computer and he was about to inform him. No, he wasn't, was he?
No, he's at it.
Yeah.
He offers to help Spock carry out what he assumes are his orders to kill Kirk.
Yeah, who will either now be preparing to flee or defend.
Spock passes on that.
Yeah, he tells him it's his concern and Sulu apparently accepts this, wishing him luck as the order to kill would fall to him should he fail, and Kirk's enemies tend to disappear.
Yes, he doesn't want that to happen to him.
No.
Spock notes that Sulu just wants to be the captain and warns him that his Vulcan operatives would avenge his death.
This seems to unsettle Sulu.
I like the idea of Spock having a crew of Vulcans that just kind of hoon around.
An assassination squad.
Yeah.
Back in Kirk's quarters, Marlena returns having, this is weird, slipped into something more comfortable.
It's not weird if you know what happened in real life.
Is that for trivia?
I've got it noted here in my notes, but I can save it if you want.
No, let's have it here. I mean, she was wearing less. She's went and put more clothes on. But anyway.
Because she had strep throat and they couldn't do the kissing scenes. And by the time she was well enough to do them, she'd lost a lot of weight.
Right.
So they had to kind of mask it by using a different outfit.
Ah, there you go. Yeah. Interesting. Good trivia.
Yeah. Anyway, she makes a weird comment about a working officer not being able to shine as a woman.
Well, before that, she enters by saying that she has just oiled her traps.
I don't even want to know what she's talking about there. Is that a known euphemism?
I don't know, but everything needs a bit of lubrication, I suppose.
Yeah. Yes, then she makes this bizarre comment, which it comes up every now and then. The writers seem to think that women can't work and be feminine.
Yeah. Before they can get down to anything, he gets up and says that he has to go, and she takes this as a slight.
Well, she thinks he's finishing with her. She's got a lieutenant lined up anyway to replace him.
Yeah, Commander Keno. It's like, okay, right, fine.
I'm not sure Kirk knows. I think he wants to maybe put her in a holding pattern here a little bit.
Yeah, to be fair, this whole scene was a bit odd. I felt just, yeah.
You'd think he'd want to save her from Mirror Kirk on the assumption he's coming back.
Yeah.
But anyhow, she wants to be transferred because she wants to be a captain's woman again, having had a taste of it.
Yeah, I think she also detects his hesitation. She knows that there's something not quite right. Well, she's already mentioned it, the fact that he didn't get through with the orders to kill the Halkans, but she notices it here again as well.
Yeah. At this point, he kisses her and she's a bit taken aback because he's more passionate than he's been recently.
Yeah, and as I said, she can't understand why he's shown mercy to the Halkans, Spock and her, and wants to know if she is still his woman. And he confirms that she is the captain's until told otherwise. So that, yeah.
I've noted here, even regular Kirk fits this aspect of the mirror universe well. He kind of ties in nicely with his usual attitude. As
mentioned earlier, it would be fantastic to see the evil Kirk try and fit in and watch Shatner go through this.
Yeah, because the way they've done it makes him look like a moron, the evil Kirk, and I'm sure he's smarter than that.
Yeah, dastardly.
It's kind of a cheat, the way they've dealt with him. Anyhow, Kirk leaves his quarters at this point and Marlena puts the Tantalus device on to keep an eye on him.
Yeah. In the turbo lift, he takes the moment of privacy to communicate with Uhura to remind her to distract Sulu from his console whilst Scotty's signal is coming through. And at this, the signal does come through, so she sashes over to the creepy navigator.
We heard this at the top of the show.
Yeah, and uses her feminine charms on the scarred sex offender.
Yes, and she sees this alert come up on his panel, and once it's gone, she backs off once more and infuriates a very frustrated Sulu.
Yeah, tells him she's changed her mind, which she's perfectly entitled to do.
Yep, at any point.
Mm-hmm.
He gets a bit aggressive and she pulls out her dagger.
And backs away, exiting past her, what turned out to be her personal security.
Because he blocks Sulu from following.
Yeah. She then communicates with Scotty, telling him of her success and remarks that it is now up to Kirk.
Down in the transporter room, Kirk is carrying out his task when a problem arises.
Please restrict your movements, Captain. What are you doing?
Are you going to shoot me now, Spock? I thought I had until dawn.
I shall make that decision. Since you returned from the planet, you've behaved in a most atypical and illogical manner. I want to know why.
Shoot, you're wasting time.
I shall not waste time with you. You're too inflexible, too disciplined once you've made up your mind. But Dr. McCoy has a plenitude of human weaknesses. Sentimental, soft, You may not tell me what I want to know, but he will.
You're running a big risk, Spock.
I have the phaser, Captain. And I do not intend to simply disappear, as so many of your opponents have in the past. If you please. Sick bay.
And that is where we go.
Yeah, on arrival, Spock is not surprised to see the four from the landing party, and again demands answers. However, Kirk starts an attack, and after their stunt doubles mess around for a minute or so, Kirk manages to knock him out with a skull.
Yes, Uhura passes this skull from the Chamber of Horrors to Kirk, and he kills Spock with it.
Fun.
Yes.
Scotty tells them that they've now got about 15 minutes, but McCoy wants to help save Spock's life.
Yes, Marlena, we see watching the Tantalus screen as this is going on. Kirk thinks that Mirror Spock is a lot like regular Spock, so he agrees to give McCoy the time he needs to save his life.
Yeah, I mean, Scotty, to be fair, or to be unfair, is not happy about it.
Well, no, because he wants to make sure they can get back. He doesn't want to be stuck here.
Yeah. But just then, Sulu and his henchmen enter with a cunning, evil plan.
Yeah, he takes the time to explain it quite kindly. He wants to kill Kirk and Spock and make it look like they've killed one another.
And then he twirls his moustache.
Unfortunately for Sulu, Marlena is still paying attention, and she tantaluses the henchman.
Yeah, why wouldn't she do it to him also?
Because I think he has been emasculated by losing his support. And
unfortunately for him, he's only got a knife.
Yeah, it's a knife in his pocket.
So Kirk easily disarms him.
Very easily. Scotty's still a bit worried about time, so they head to the transporter room with McCoy promising to follow along in due course.
Yeah, after he has saved Spock, and he is successful. Too successful, as Spock rises and begins a mind meld in order to find out why Kirk let him live.
Down in the transporter room, there's another surprise for Kirk.
Yeah, they arrive to find Marlena there, and Kirk acknowledges that she saved them moments earlier.
Yes, but she wants to come with them, and when Kirk explains that she cannot, she raises a phaser.
Does she know where they're going?
No, he just knows that they're going away.
Yeah.
Oh no, maybe was she listening? Could she hear through the Tantalus?
But see, I think she couldn't. You can't. There'd be two Marlenas then.
No, she would swap.
Would they?
No, I don't know how it would work. That's a question I've got later on. How did they know when the other lot were beaming?
Yeah.
Anyhow, Uhura easily disarms her, and she's just set to one side now.
Yeah, it was nice to see Uhura being in a position of power rather than the damsel in distress as she normally is.
Of course. Scotty notes that the power has been cut. Someone is going to have to stay behind and operate the transporter. They could just let Marlena do it.
I'm not sure she would do it.
Maybe not know how as well.
Or not be too keen.
Yeah. Scotty offers to be the one to stay behind, but Kirk says, don't be so stupid, it has to be me.
I thought I was going to say, don't be so stupid. McCoy can do it.
Yeah. Uhura can do it, stupid woman.
Yeah. So Kirk tells Uhura and Scotty to get onto the chamber, the transporter pods.
Yes, and just then McCoy arrives.
Yeah, but he's not alone. He's been brought there.
Yes, by Spock, who admits it was he who cut the power to delay them just long enough.
Why?
So that he could make sure they go together.
Why?
Because he wants his own Kirk back.
Yeah, and he found out, obviously, through the mind meld that Kirk was a compassionate person. He understood why he was doing it and what had been going on.
Yes, he's got the full story now.
So I think there's a bit of respect there.
Well, perhaps.
I think
it doesn't really fit in with his usual.
No, but as you said, he is the same, perhaps underlying person now.
Root, yes.
Yes, that the good side is coming to the fore, perhaps here. He then reactivates the transporter circuits, causing Kirk to claim him a man of integrity. That's what I said. There's a bit of respect in both universes. But it doesn't stop him trying one final time to point out the mistake he is making in his handling of the Halkans.
How long before the Halkan prediction of galactic revolt is realized?
Approximately 240 years.
The inevitable outcome?
The Empire shall be overthrown, of course.
The logic of waste, Mr. Spock. The waste of lives, potential, resources, time. I submit to you that your empire is illogical because it cannot endure. I submit that you are illogical to be a willing part of it.
You have 1 minute and 23 seconds.
If change is inevitable, predictable, beneficial, doesn't logic demand that you be a part of it?
One man cannot summon the future.
But one man can change the present. Be the captain of this enterprise, Mr. Spock. Find a logical reason for sparing the Halkans and make it stick. Push till it gives. You can defend yourself better than any man in the fleet.
Captain, get in the chamber!
What about it, Spock?
The man must also have the power.
In my cabin is a device that will make you invincible.
Indeed.
What will it be? Past or future? Tyranny or freedom? It's up to you.
It is time.
In every revolution, there's one man with a vision.
Captain Kirk, I shall consider it.
I thought the exchanges between Kirk and Spock elevated this episode.
Yeah, they were very good. Back on the normal Enterprise, regular Spock greets his captain.
Beardless Spock.
Do you think Kirk went up and rubbed his face?
Why?
Just make sure there was no beard starting.
No.
Oh yeah, that'd be inappropriate.
Would be, yeah. What are you doing? Nerve pinch.
Yeah.
Don't ever. On the bridge, Kirk is asking Spock how he was able to spot the alternative counterpart so quickly.
Yes, and he explains it was far easier for them as civilized men to behave like barbarians than it was for the barbarians to behave like civilized men.
We missed that barbaric behaviour.
It would have been interesting.
It would have been fun. Shatner said earlier would have been brilliant.
You could have flipped the whole episode, actually. You could have set most of it in the regular Enterprise and had the mirror force them trying to get it back themselves.
Yeah. As I said, I think it could have been and should have been a two-parter, and you could have shown the troubles and the challenges for the good guys in the bad place 1 week, next week the opposite, and then just tie it all up at the end. The last 5 minutes. See how they both coped, or they all coped.
Yeah. Kirk explains at this point that he believes he's had an influence on the mirror Spock. And McCoy says that he preferred the beard, although any change at all would be an improvement.
But Spock responds by rolling off a list of unpleasant attributes he had the pleasure of witnessing and claims them to be typical of Homo sapiens.
He also says he found them refreshing.
Yes. And we then have a sort of twist ending.
Well, just before that, Kirk notes he's concerned at how easily Mirror Spock fit into the Empire setup and how he always thought there was a bit of a pirate in him.
Yeah.
And Kirk and McCoy agree that Spock's comments were probably an insult.
Yes.
And like you say, there's a twist because a new lieutenant who's just been assigned comes to deliver a report to the captain.
Yeah, who is it?
It's Marlena.
And obviously Kirk is surprised and he stares, he smiles.
Spock picks up on this, asks if he knows her, and he says no, but he thinks they could be good friends.
He's going to try and fire in there, isn't he?
He's on his way down to the front of the bridge already, isn't he?
Marlena, come here. It'll be like Groundhog Day. He's going to try and use some of the information that he gathered the last time to weasel his way in there.
Yeah.
Fair play.
And that's the end. On to the next adventure.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Did yourself?
Very much so. Very much so. It was a fun episode.
Yeah.
Wasn't that serious, wasn't that heavyweight, which is fine.
Yeah.
Before I watched Star Trek, this is the type of episode that I thought Star Trek was like.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good one. In Deep Space Nine, they go back to the Mirror Universe and they find out what happened after this episode. Do you want to hear about it?
Is this going to be a spoiler in any way?
Well, it'll be a spoiler for Deep Space Nine.
Is Deep Space Nine like after... What's the progression?
I think Next Generation, and then Deep Space Nine starts around about season 5 of Next Generation.
We're talking hundreds of episodes, are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, on you go.
So, apparently after this episode, Spock does take on Kirk's advice and he rises to the top of the Empire, but he makes it weak and they are attacked and defeated by an alliance of the Klingons and another species because they've let go of their warlike ways.
That's what you get for listening to Kirk.
Yeah. And essentially, the Terran Empire is wiped out.
Yeah, sucker. Won't do that again.
Nope, that's it. Did you like his beard?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was a real beard or was it a sticky on one?
I assume he grew it, I don't know.
Who knows? Might not have time if it's only a week between filming. We don't know.
Maybe he grew it first, they did those scenes, and then I don't know.
Yeah.
It's quite a tight
No,
schedule.
I mean, I thought he did suit it.
Yeah, they should use it more.
He should, yeah.
It's good to see that Uhura's been re-educated.
She has.
It's paid off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she was looking, as you say, in decent
nick, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like the Halkins?
Didn't really think about them too much.
They weren't that interesting, were they?
No. I like Marlena. She was nice.
Yeah, we never see her again.
They both had very nice stomachs.
Both been in the gym, anyway.
Yeah.
Trivia?
Sure.
Original air date, 6th of October, 1967. Like the two previous episodes, Mirror, Mirror was directed by Mark Daniels, the 8th of his 14, and we discussed him in more detail back in the podcast for The Man Trap. Jerome Bixby.
Bill Bixby's dad.
He was the writer for this episode. This was the first of 4 Star Trek episodes, and he also wrote for shows like The Twilight Zone and Men into Space, but not a lot else. He's not got a huge resume in terms of television writing.
I mean, how many Bixbys can there be in TV during that period? And he wasn't related to Bill.
Who knows? Maybe 7? Is it just the two of them? Did you look into this?
Yeah. I assumed there must be some connection, but apparently not.
Okay. Jerome died in 1998 at the age of 75, and there's an episode of Deep Space Nine dedicated to his memory.
I've been watching a little bit of, I've never seen it before, but we've mentioned it a few times over the different podcasts. My Favourite Martian.
Okay.
And Bill Bixby he's one of the lead roles in that. I've had it on in the background, one of the American channels that I've got.
Okay.
On a service that I shouldn't have.
Oh, okay. Vic Perrin, remember from last week, was the voice of Nomad.
Yes,
he played Tharn, which is the name of the head guy down on the planet.
Okay.
That name's not mentioned in the episode. It's a nod back to an earlier draft of the script when the alien species were called the Tharn.
Okay.
We talked about him last week in the episode for the Changeling, so if you're interested in learning more, go back and listen to that one. Barbara Luna, who at some point after this episode adopted a capital B in the middle of her first name.
Yeah.
She played Marlena. This was her only appearance on Star Trek. She also appeared in lots of other things, though, series like Mission Impossible, Hawaii Five-0, and T.J. Hooker.
Mm-hmm.
She's now 83 years old.
I bet she's a fan favourite with those nerds. I bet they'll love her.
You just said you loved her literally a minute ago.
Yeah, but I bet she gets harassed at these conventions. Drilling perverts.
Wear a bikini, Barbara.
Yeah. I'd be the same with Christine.
Bobby Bass appeared as Chekhov's henchman.
Who?
Bobby Bass.
Bobby Bass?
Big Bobby Bass.
Right, okay. Bobby Bass and it sounds like on the band, a band member from the 50s. Bobby Bass and his...
Yeah. I thought it was the name for those sort of singing fish that you hang on the wall.
Yeah.
Anyhow, he was one of Chekhov's henchmen. He's probably best recognised for his stunt work on films like Batman and Robin, Lethal Weapon, and Rocky V.
Oh, there you go.
This was the 4th of his 6 uncredited appearances on the show. Once again, no Columbo connection. I think that's 3 in a row. So they need to pick that up, start hiring more Columbo actors.
Have you thoroughly checked, have you?
Everyone who appeared in this episode I checked.
Okay.
Mirror Universe, as I say, returns in Deep Space Nine, also in Enterprise and in Discovery. The one in Enterprise is set entirely in the Mirror Universe. It's not between the two. The one in Discovery is a massive spoiler if you haven't watched the season 1 of the show. This is the first time ever that Scotty refers to Kirk as Jim.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Captain Pike gets mentioned as for the first time since he appeared in the Menagerie. He's listed as who Kirk assassinated to get the command in the Mirror Universe. Bare Midriffs, I've mentioned to you before we started recording. They were a bit controversial, but apparently the network guy in charge of standards and decency was taken for a long lunch the day that those shots were filmed.
Was he taken for a long lunch by Nichelle Nichols and Barbara?
Well, no, they stayed behind to film. Yeah,
okay. A
long boozy lunch, I imagine. This episode was nominated for a Hugo Award, I think Best Dramatic Presentation. And that's it. In terms of international titles, there's only one really that goes away from the norm.
Japanese?
It is. They go for Ion Arashi no Kyofu, which means Terror of the Ion Turbulence.
Yeah, okay.
It's a bit like saying Terror of the Windy Day or something like this. Yeah, it's not quite terror, maybe overplaying it slightly. Anyhow, next time, 5th episode of season 2, The Apple.
Wow.
It's literally about an apple.
Right.
I imagine it's got some sort of biblical reference as well, just from looking at the title.
Sure.
It's not immediately awe-inspiring.
No.
Anyhow, if you've got any thoughts about Mirror Mirror or the podcast or any other episode, you can get in touch with us on social media. We're at Trek Podcast on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. You can find our website at astartrekpodcast.com, where there's a post up for every show to share your thoughts, reminiscences and criticisms. And we will see you in 7 days' time.
Hopefully.
Cheerio.
Bye bye.